I have no pony in this race.
I have no race in this pony.
I have a lot of race in this pony. This pony can hold so much race.
This pony
Racing.
can hold so much
This is
race.
getting weird.
Alright, hey everyone. If you're watching this, it has been some time in the future because we are recording this in the past. It's been a long day for me. You're gonna have to bear with me and my silly jokes. But hi, I am Good Game Kitty. You can just call me Kitty. I am the creator of the Dungeons and Destiny project, and today I am joined by a couple other of my dev team members, and we're going to be talking a lot about the Dungeons and Destiny project. But first, why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Greetings, Guardians. It is I, Mardin, the editor and lead writer for Dungeons and Destiny.
Oh, is that all you're... Okay. Hi, I'm Laur.
Should I say more?
No,
I don't know. I
this
don't know.
is Laur's first time doing this. Laur, what do you do?
I'm an artist, and I do a lot on the Discord.
She lurks.
I lurk a lot. I run around. I'm not going to call myself a gopher because that's wrong. But I'm an artist. I'm a colorist and an illustrator for Dungeons and Destiny.
So yeah, today we had actually just launched the Qodron's Uprising, which is the main quest of the Prison of Elders reboot. So a little bit of a history here. A couple years ago, when I was just starting out with the Dungeons and Destiny project, Laur wasn't here, Mardin wasn't here, Snake was here, but she's not here to record this with us. She was on the team though at the time.
She's here in spirit.
She's here in spirit. We had just launched, I think it was 0.6 or some version like that, maybe even an earlier version, and I needed a test environment. And we had plenty of test sessions where it's just you hop in and you have a character basically given to you, and the characters had specific setups because I was testing specific combinations and stuff like that, and new mechanics and all that fun stuff. It was very loose in those early days. But what I needed was a environment where people could make characters and then they could go run in and participate in a small-scale story. It's not taking you all across the universe. It's going to keep you in one location. And I could throw a whole bunch of monsters at you, and you could level up your character, and I could get more of the role-playing testing done, because up until then I'd basically only been doing mechanical testing. And so I decided to do the Prison of Elders. And I put together a Prison of Elders module, and it was okay at the time. It was okay. But also it was really bad. Me as the designer that I am today, I look back at that and I'm like, ugh. Much in the same way as I imagine an artist looking back at some of their old work might feel. That happened, did that module, it lasted for a couple months, and, it was fine and passable, and then another year passed, PGB 1.0 came out, and the module was really, really outdated. Really outdated. And I did tell people, because it was very popular at the time, those people on the server absolutely loved it, wanted to revisit it, and I wanted to remake it. So I started remaking Prison of Elders after PGB, well, a little bit before PGB 1.0, but around the same time. And that's how we end up with the module that we have today, which is a lot. I'm not going to go over every single facet of how it works. Most of this will probably actually be available for you to go and read on your own, because, like I mentioned at the very beginning of this, we are recording this now after our streams, but we're not going to release this content or put this up on YouTube until after the module is completed. Because you can already see here, looking at the screen, we're going to be going over a lot of background and behind-the-scenes stuff. Like, we're going to be looking at some monsters and everything, and we're going to be talking about what happened during the stream, and decisions player made, and whether or not we're reaching our gameplay goals. But anyways, I've been doing a whole lot of talking. Hi, Mardin, Laur, you guys are here too.
What's up?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
I wasn't here for
But we
Prison of
weren't
Elders,
here
so.
when this originated, so...
No.
No,
But
so,
I've heard
Okay.
stories.
Yeah.
So many stories.
Yeah, there's still people telling stories about the OG Prison of Elders days. And we do still have a couple players from that time. Slashy, she's still around. But so this specific module, how it came about the way it came about,
Yes.
Fim and I had actually worked on something that we were calling adventure mode, and it was going to be this whole thing. It involved spreadsheets and tracking particular behaviors from players, which would update future encounters, because the encounters would adapt to like how many times you casted your super, how many times you defeated an opponent by tossing them off a ledge or something like that. And you would end up fighting basically a tailor-made boss. Conceptually, it was a lot of fun to design. That's not something you can run at a tabletop, though. That's something that you need to put into a video game. And when we were sitting down, we were sitting here like, yes, I could run this. And then it was just kind of looking back, looking at our work and looking at each other and saying, can we expect a new GM to run this? And the answer to that was a big resounding no. Not that, new GMs are bad. It's just, it was a lot. It was way too much, is what it was. So then I came to Mardin, and I said, hey, Mardin, need some help here, because we have to completely redo adventure mode now. So Mardin, what was it like on your end for me just, sliding my wheelie chair over to your office and saying, hey, buddy?
I got suckered, let me tell you. Because
Entirely.
What had happened is Kitty came up to me and was like, so take a look at this map for this Prison of Elders thing. It was just a diagram of the areas she and I guess Fim had created. She had, named them and concepted what they were, and had diagrammed how they all connected, like which pathways had what kind of locks, and, basically already designed in broad strokes what you had to do to unlock the various routes you through this space to get to the final boss thing. And she brought me this map and presented this exercise to me as a how about checking the concepting for these areas and see what you think about the names of these nodes and stuff. I was like, okay, that'll, that won't take very long. And, this is the map, or we're trying to find the map. It was something like this in any case.
Yeah, I was trying to find the original. This is what we ended up at.
It doesn't much matter. One thing that's important is it is the same map that the module still uses because Kitty made a good space and a good series of connections and stuff, and it didn't take long to confirm that she wanted to keep this layout. But what I thought was just maybe reevaluate the names of these nodes exercise turned into let's revamp the entire concept of the space this map represents from, a bunch of different arena ideas that I believe, Kitty, you must have just come up with on your own, to a sort of overarching concept of, well, what if, this is starting sort of at the top or at a higher actual level, literal level of the Prison of Elders, and we've seen the interior of the Prison of Elders a little bit in Forsaken, and we know that it has these many, many different levels that descend all the way down to the Supermax section that the Scorn Barons were kept in. And so I said, well, what if we just redress this as different levels of the prison, and each of these nodes is a different location on each level, and you're moving through downward, blah blah blah. Kitty latched onto that, and I don't really know how this happened, because somehow I went from just suggesting a different way to sort of paint this structure in essence to, well, rename and then reconcept and then write blurbs for every single one of these nodes and all of the pathways between them, and also dialogue that goes into the different stages of this quest as it progresses. And I ended up working on nothing but this for a month and a half, at least a whole month.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
I'm
like
so sorry.
mostly my job is just, writing flavoring stuff and narrative elements like dialogue, but this was a little bit more of a design exercise for me, because Kitty was like, well, if you've decided these nodes are these spaces in the prison, then come up with encounters that should go in them, and then I'll help you like build them into something that mechanically functions.
Yeah.
So like this became a whole module design project that Kitty and I worked on pretty nonstop for a good chunk of time, and that I felt like we would never finish because
Yeah.
it just kept like growing. The more every time I got some part of this done, there were like 2 other things had been added on that needed to be fleshed out or expanded or something.
That's how these things always happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
God, you're not gonna
but
like
we
some-
ended up with a really like complete module. I feel like that has a really large and well designed series of spaces and is coherent in a nice way. And I forgot to mention that the custom boss idea and the repeatability idea evolved into what if what's going on here is that Qodron, the big Vex Minotaur boss from D1 Prison of Elders, Qodron's always had this mysterious sounding grimoire card about voluntarily appearing in the Prison of Elders and waiting for some guardian to show up that it has to kill to ensure its own future. And so we arrived at this idea of, well, what if Qodron has got fed up with just sitting around twiddling its thumbs waiting for a guardian to show up for it to kill, and has instead taken over this whole section of the prison somehow, and on top of that is doing some weird Vex time fuckery and
as they
causing
do.
And causing some sort of weird time loopy sort of thing to happen, which conveniently justifies the need to run this repeatedly.
Yeah, we made a roguelike.
Oh my
And
god.
the time loop is a well-worn trope, but
Yeah.
I feel like we deployed it responsibly and appropriately, and in a way that makes this activity do what Kitty envisioned it being for, as a repeatable adventure mode, while actually giving, a coherent narrative foundation to that experience. And I'm pretty pleased with that, especially because it's an instance where we were able to connect what we built directly to source material in the grimoire, which tickles my fancy, certainly.
And yeah, I do have to say that, Mardin, you, God, all right, you are godsend for this module, because, I had a few gameplay ideas, and I had, like, a core concept that I wanted to work with, but then Mardin was like, okay, so let's actually put a coherent story in here, Kitty, and also maybe a couple side quests so that we have other things to do, and, there's actually there's a couple fun jokes that Mardin has slipped into the module that I don't even I know we're gonna be saying this, we're gonna be releasing this after.
Jokes?
Jokes, Mardin?
Hide jokes
Hide jokes.
in serious game.
This is a serious game.
Serious
I know Guardian can die, permanently, but
They can.
really serious.
But no, but Mardin really went above and beyond, and really, and like he said, he put this together into a coherent module that is really well constructed and well designed. And what you're looking at on screen right here now, I think this was the base. I think this was the original map that I had sent to you, where, as you were saying, I had the different areas, which are the boxes, and then how you move between them, which are the arrows.
Yeah.
The dotted lines were, I knew I wanted those to be transmat pads. This is not actually the final map, because this went through a couple revisions during the game design process.
But this basic structure was pretty solid from the get-go. The only major structural change, if you can call it that, was adding the levels that are marked here, because originally that wasn't here. And I don't know how you envisioned the actual space this occupies.
And I think
but once we decided it was a layer cake going down.
It was originally it was actually going to be one arena that would just change.
Oh.
Yeah, it would just sort of like alter underneath your feet.
It's just it's almost how Prison of Elders seems to work when you play it in the game.
Almost.
It's not totally impossible, but I'm happier that we ended up like really grounding what this whole network of nodes is in a physical way.
I remember talking to you about this, because I don't think I showed you the levels, but I did show you these gray lines that do all the different cutoffs here, because I remember talking to you about how I wanted only one area from each of these, sections accessible. Yes. So,
and that, in fact, is why I made the suggestion of, like, what if these are the levels of the prison? Because you're right, you had already had the idea that it's not just this maze that they can move through, but that each set of nodes here is a stage of the process, and you only go through one of each set. And it's like, well, if that's how they're going to progress, then isn't it like they're moving through, decks of the prison? And we just made it literal levels.
And then as for what it looks like right now, actually, that would be this map. And this includes all of the symbols here because there are a bunch of locked doors, or you have to do certain actions to get through certain paths, and that's what these circles are for. We have the key card, which was actually unlocked on stream today, which you got. So the green path here is the guaranteed path. This is the straight path through. No matter what you do, you can always take this path to go from start to finish. And then everything else is optional, except if you want to do some of the side quests. But, so, the network nexus, it was, what was it, Syntax 5, I believe was the dude's name, was the network servitor, who I actually forgot to update the name on Roll20, so it actually displays as network servitor, but I'll have that updated for future ones. So Syntax 5, the network servitor, you are guaranteed to fight that boss, because the level here, you see the Overmind Minotaur and the network nexus, that is a boss level. Every single area, like if we were to put more areas on this in the future, if we put an area on this level, that has to be another boss, because you go through 3 encounters or 4 if you take the tracks, and then you're guaranteed to fight a boss. Then you go through 2 more encounters, and then you fight the Forever Eater. But you always fight the Syntax 5 first, and Syntax 5 drops the key card, which is used to get into the sewers. And then there is a lock. It's a code wheel with some passwords and stuff that have to be put into it. You go through that to get into the Rotten Crypts. And the Rotten Crypts take you to the Overmind Labyrinth. And the Overmind Labyrinth is... you need the Overmind Minotaur to do one of the side quests, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So you always start in the junkyard. You always start there. You see the CR is just the average difficulty rating of that encounter, and as you can see, this changed a little bit from this one here, because the original one here actually went up to CR 20, but this one I decided to cap at CR 16. But the minimum is CR 5, and then when you get to the outer tracks, you can transmat into the network nexus if you have that unlocked. You can go into Shaft 32, you can transmat over to the engineering block. After engineering block or simulation arena, you have to go into the Forever Eater, and you have to fight Qodron. And Qodron's mechanics are really fun. And this is another instance of Mardin totally coming in clutch here.
I mean, Kitty's being kind. I just threw little idea spitballs around, because I can write Destiny stuff pretty good, but I am not a mechanical designer for TTRPG stuff, so like the best I can do is like, what if it does this, and then like Kitty processes that into something intelligible that can actually be structured in rules text.
Well, see,
I
feel
just
like
think I'm just being spoiled right now, honestly.
I mean,
I'm just sitting here like, ooh, look at all this, and just
I told you about this. This is what we were recording this for.
I know, but I'm saying I haven't seen this stuff yet.
So
at the time of recording.
Yeah, at the time of recording, you hadn't seen this stuff yet.
I haven't seen some of this stuff yet.
So
our fire team hasn't gotten that far.
Qodron's actually a 3 encounter boss, technically, mechanically, and a little bit narratively. So how this whole thing works and how the reset happens and where all the time fuckery is coming into this is you go into the Forever Eater's lair, and I'm gonna read this because this is effing amazing, and oh my god. Hang on. The Forever Eater. Okay, so I'm going to read it as if we're coming in from the simulation arena, because as you can see here in this document, we have the arena's name, and then we have these little snippets that Mardin wrote based on what arena you are coming into that one from. So if you're coming in from engineering block or the simulation arena, you have a different snippet to read. But I'm going to read the
They're pretty close. But
I mean, yeah.
Like differences.
So entering from simulation arena. As the remains of the last simulated foes decompile and vanish, a whole section of the arena's wall begins moving. Its surface separates into wriggling cubes that shiver out of place and tumble around each other like a collapsing stack of dice, only to snap back into orderly arrangement in a huge arch. A pale glow seeps through the broad opening. When you pass under the arch, you feel physically displaced forward, almost like you've stepped onto a conveyor belt. The whitish-blue light grows stronger as you approach a matching rocky Vex arch. Martin, we also, by the way, Martin, we gotta talk about some of the words you put in here. You're making me read these out loud. But as you approach a matching rocky Vex arch, beyond which you see a large open space. You step through the other side of the passage into a hexagonal chamber with no ceiling. Its walls of pale Vex-etched stone are bathed in spectral light without any apparent source. The wall opposite you is dominated by a huge triangular aperture, sealed with the gridded bars of a Vex barrier. In the center of the chamber, you behold the massive Minotaur chassis of a Gate Lord, disarticulated into its component parts, floating perfectly still, arrayed in the shape of a giant T. T-posing to assert dominance.
Listen, that's just canon, okay? That's how Gate Lords' bodies. So think back to D1, the campaign when you go to Venus to fight Zydron to get the Gate Lord's eye, and that huge gate activates. There's a lovingly detailed animation where Zydron's chassis comes through that huge gate, broken up into its component parts, and it's just floating there in a big T shape, and then all the parts like rotate and lock together, and then the Gate Lord is assembled and like drops onto its feet, and the fight starts. So I'm not making this up for the lulz.
Oh my God.
That's just how Gate Lords do, okay? I don't make the rules.
But, so I think the T-posing to assert dominance meme came out after that.
Oh my god, I've been muted. I'm so sorry.
Oh, hi, Laur. Would you like to make a comment?
Welcome back.
Yeah, because I said T-posing to assert dominance, and then Kitty said T-posing to assert dominance, and then Mardin went on the whole thing about T-posing, and I was like, the sanctified mind! Well, not the sanctified mind. Which one is it? At the end of Garden?
Garden of Salvation.
Is that not the sanctified mind?
Is that the sanctified mind?
Wait,
I don't remember which one. There's one that is... Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, he T-poses for dominance, too. When you have to go into damage phase. He also T-poses for dominance. You're right, it is a Minotaur thing. They just do it.
All right, but still, that's hilarious.
But I do agree. I said out loud, he T-poses for dominance. But you guys can hear it. It's fine.
So to defeat Qodron, you fight Qodron first, and Qodron's got this thing where it can detain you, it can eat away at your very being, and you can die permanently from Qodron if you're not able to manage the ads and defeat the eyes of Qodron, which wander the arena and mark you so that Qodron can do the detainment thing even if Qodron doesn't have line of sight on you. But, and then if you beat that, you're like, woo, yay, we beat Qodron. And then the door behind Qodron that was described in that opening bit, that door opens up. And it's like, okay, well, there's more to go there. And then you go into Qodron's Gauntlet, which is this really long, narrow hallway. Kind of like, God, how would we describe it here? Yeah. The walls and floor are shimmering planes flashing with flattened waves of sparks and shadows, pure topology with no material correlate. Yet the floor is solid enough to support the soles of your boots. And you go in there and you just have to fight a crap ton of Vex. And you can see down here there's actually half this table needs to be redone because these down here, the 46 and higher results, are going to get the Ironies added to it, which is a new monster made just before. Yeah, they're going to get Ironies, and the Ironies are going to be great. Most people have fought Phantasms by now. Those are the hobgoblins that zip around and go anime mode on you. The Ironies, they hunt you down and kill you, and they pick you off one by one, and they are a team of 3 that work together. They're really cool. But you have to survive the Gauntlet, and that if you make it through the Gauntlet, you end up at the Vex Network node. And this is something I'm actually really proud of, because this was a lot of mechanical design, and Mardin did slip in another one of his classic jokes in here, which was just chef's kiss. But so I had to put this whole warning on it, because this encounter is several pages long, and this might not even be the final version, because we're, recording this now when we're just starting to test the module. So for all I know, we're going to need to update some of how this works. But the TLDR is that there's a cube in the middle of the room. You examine the cube. Some reinforcements arrive. In a perfect run, what would have to happen is 4 ghosts, and it has to be ghosts, 4 ghosts would have to examine the cube all at the same time, because once you examine that cube, it starts the encounter. Each ghost gets a different set of segment symbols, which these are Easter eggs, what these symbols are and where they're derived from. 10 points to whatever figures out what these Easter eggs are. But your ghost gets you'll either get the side 1, side 2, side 3, or side 4 set of symbols. It doesn't actually matter what order it goes in. But so solving the encounter, imagine you have like C, D, whatever. One set will have a letter that is unique that doesn't appear anywhere else. And that is the starting sequence set. And you have to run around the arena, which right now is not the best looking arena. A lot of the content that I had to put together for this, I just had to kind of like figure out using whatever assets I had. And there was some, because there are teleporters that will, the teleporters link up to each other, and I did want it to be so that you could go through a teleporter realistically and possibly even get back to another one, so that even in one turn you might have someone capable of taking out 2 conflicts to help with recovering from mistakes, because you have the 4 sequence sets. One of them has a unique letter in it that doesn't appear in anyone. That is the starting sequence set. You have to run around the arena, and you have to destroy the confluxes in the order of the current sequence set. So you start with the starting one, and then when you finish the starting one, the last letter in the starting sequence set tells you what is the next sequence set, because only one sequence set will start with that letter. So in the example that's here, the starting one would be ABC, and then the next one would be CDB, because that's the only one that starts with C. And then we have one that ends with B, so we have to go down to the one that starts with B. And you do that, hopefully within one round, you get all of those defeated. And then on initiative, I forget if it was initiative 20 or initiative 0, On initiative 20, losing all ties, the destroyed confluxes regenerate. And then you have to do the next set. And when they regenerate, they also spawn Conductor Minotaurs. And these were a bit of a challenge to design as well. Because what the conductors do is that they hop out onto the field. They show up wherever a conflux was destroyed. And the conductor has a layer action, which I spent so long, because there are so many different ways you can do what I have the conductors doing, and there's so many different ways you can assemble the mechanics. Trying to pick the way that I thought was going to produce the best endgame result was really difficult. So they spawn on initiative 20, and then immediately after, what they do is they're going to summon an oracle. And the oracle will appear somewhere. I think they have to be like within 10 feet. But the oracles have this thing where they appear. They have a determined initiative. The oracle always acts on initiative count 0, losing all ties. The oracle also is anchored to reality. The oracle can only exist if it is summoned in an unoccupied space within Vault of Glass or similar environment. If the creature that summoned the oracle is reduced to 0 hit points, the oracle loses its ability to exist in reality and is killed. So you basically have that one round to try to nuke the conductor, because if it gets back to the conductor's turn, guess what? It's going to do the Ritual of Negation. Which is the conductor chooses one creature marked for negation, which is the action the oracle can do on its turn on initiative 0. And you make a con save, or you take a crap ton of damage. If you succeed, you are no longer marked, but if you fail, you take that damage and you are still marked. You can just end up taking that damage over and over. Does not need line of sight on you, by the way. If you leave the area the conductor and the oracle are in, even if you teleport out of here and go to a different area in the Vex Network node, you're still subject to that effect. So it's managing the ads, because a bunch of goblins and supplicants and stuff are going to be spawning in here. Occasionally you get minotaurs, you get the conductors that spawn, and you have to do all of this. You have to do the sequence sets, you have to destroy the nodes in the right order, you have to manage your conductors, you have to manage your oracles, and you have to get it all done right within 6 rounds. Because if you don't do it within 6 rounds, Qodron is reinstantiated within the Prison of Elders, is resurrected, is remade, whatever the appropriate narrative is here. I actually forgot what, do they just, like, hit the reprint button? The reboot? They call up what do they call those? A backup?
Yeah, I mean, you know,
Just 3D printed into existence.
Basically, like, high-level Vex minds don't just, like, exist in the chassis they operate and, like, die when you blow up that individual Vex. Like, they exist in the Vex collective and instantiate themselves into a physical chassis when they have some need to do that, but they also still exist in the network as whatever informatic state they naturally exist in. So Qodron is pulling a little fast one here, and exists in the prison in a big Minotaur chassis, but has set up this Vex network node, and because of that is able to, boot up a fresh chassis and load a fresh instance of itself after a short while if you don't succeed in shutting down this big Vex Wi-Fi router.
I totally just thought it was going to be like a wipe mechanic. Like, we did it! We finally made a raid. Because there's a wipe mechanic in this raid. Kitty, you're muted, by the way.
Hey, sorry, I am muted. Am I no longer muted?
You are no longer muted.
Okay, thank you. I can't, because Discord, I don't get the bleep bloops when I'm recording. But anyways, so it is a wipe mechanic, Laur. It is a wipe mechanic, because Qodron, it's a wipe and a reset mechanic, and this is where the roguelike comes in. Because if Qodron, if you don't get it within 6 rounds, Qodron comes back, and Qodron will enact an enraged action, which will shunt everyone out of the Vex network node and back into the junkyard, and it resets everything they, well, not everything, 99% of what they did in the Prison of Elders. It's, you do not pass go, do not collect $100, $200, whatever. you go back to square one, and you start all over. And then, throughout the fight, so to make it even harder, it is possible to beat this without the cheat code. There is a cheat code. But it is possible to beat it without a cheat code, but it is very hard, and you do have to be literally turn perfect to make it happen. Because at the same time, while you're managing the ads, and you're managing the sequence set, and you're managing the conductors and the oracles, you have to deal with chronometric polarization, which is the effect of a sub-quantum manipulation of the temporal dimension that can cause macroscopic objects to become partially out of phase with their local spacetime, up to the point of total topological repulsion. Mardin wrote that line. I think I had a note that just said, chromatic polarization is timey stuff, or something like that.
All right, so we got the Asher Mirror version. Can we get the just the Guardian, the normal Guardian version?
This isn't intelligible.
I mean, Laur, it teleports you.
It's perfect.
It's TLDR, it teleports you. I mean, perfect. I thought...
you know how, like, magnets repel each other? They're pointed the wrong way?
Yeah.
Well, imagine time works like magnets, and Qodron can slowly point you the wrong way, so you fly out of the space-time that you're in.
It's actually a really cool idea to think about. Like, on one hand, you could make the joke, I don't know how magnets works either, I don't know how time works, it might as well work the same way. You know, magnets, how do they work? But on the other hand, like, just conceptually, that is a really fun idea to work with. That, you know, Qodron is, I mean, like, exactly like you said, Qodron is pointing, you know, the negatives and the negatives against each other, and it is pushing you out of here. And reality just has to reconfigure itself to put you in a position where you can match up with a positive and not get repulsed anymore. So you get the chromatic polarization, which is on initiative 0, losing all ties, the Vex network node emits a temporal inversion wave. Every fire team member takes damage, and they gain 1 stack of chronometric polarization. If any creature gains 3 stacks of this debuff, they are immediately shunted out of the Vex network node's area and are teleported back to the junkyard. And if any one member of the fire team is shunted, the entire fire team is shunted. So, you literally have to be turn perfect. You actually even have to be a little bit better than turn perfect, because you have 4 sets and 3 rounds, essentially. Though, where did the sentence go? I might change this to 4 stacks with the debuff, though, and just be a little bit less unforgiving with this. Because while I want it to be very difficult for it to work without the cheat code, I don't want it to be completely impossible or completely reliant on really good luck. So yeah, you fight Qodron, and then you go through Qodron's Gauntlet to get to the Vex network node to fight the concept of Vex. How would you describe just, you know, because you're not technically, like, fighting Qodron itself here. You are fighting kind of just Vex systems in general.
You're trying to turn off Qodron's Vex wireless access point.
Yeah. And if you don't... Oh, go ahead.
Go on.
Okay. I was just going to say, if you don't do that, then Qodron's back, and he kicks you out and resets everything, and you got to try it all over again. And the first time that happens, the first time you get here and you get kicked out, is when you're going to start the side quest, A Stitch in Time, which are the steps to construct the transfinite?
I would say transfinite.
Transfinite needle, which is a spear. You talk to Varix, he admits that things are a little bit more fucked up than he planned on them being. You have to find the Overmind Minotaur, which is, you know, that second boss. So you'd have to get the network keys, you have to solve that puzzle, and you have to get to the Overmind Minotaur that way. You can also do the transmat pad here, which is unlocked via another side quest. But you go through all the steps, you end up having to go into the Infinite Forest. I gotta fill that table in. Whoops. And if you do all of that, you end up with the transfinite needle, which, if you have that, so this was originally, it was going to be that you just had to show up to the Vex network node with the transfinite needle, and
I'm glad you fixed this.
yeah. Mardin was like, can we please, like, have them do something with it, even if it's just to, like, poke the node so we can make the joke that they're holding down the reset button on the node. So I did that.
That's the concept here, because Kitty was like, what if we have some side quest to make an exotic weapon that makes the Vex network node fight easier somehow? And I'm like, well, okay, obviously that item should be a reset button pin that you get to, like, stick in a, you know, in a do computers still have these?
Routers and modems do.
So
yes, they still do.
Okay, good. It's not a super old thing that the Zoomers won't understand.
Yeah, I've got a reset button on my computer.
Okay, good. I'm glad my whole bit here was not hopelessly dated. Yeah, it's a Vex reset pin. That's
the joke.
That's the exotic.
And I hope people get that. We can probably do something with the flavor text to help that out. But yeah, so you have to go into the node and you have to hold it. You have to press it into the node for a few seconds, because everyone knows you have to hold down the reset button for 10 seconds. And then it makes the encounter way easier. If the sequence set has failed, you don't have to start completely over. And the chronometric polarization does not affect your fire team anymore, because the transfinite needle has put the node into reboot mode, so it can't do chronometric polarization. That's, I guess, just kind of the TLDR of the history and how this all works, which is a lot, and it's not even, we skimmed over a lot. And there's another side quest you probably saw here, Caged Wolves. This one I'm really excited about players interacting with. It's 99% role-playing. I have to insert the check there, don't worry about that. You find this faction of Fallen, who are ex-House of Wolves, and, you know, you do this quid pro quo, where if you help them out, they will help you out, and they're the ones who actually fix the transmat pads, which this happened in stream today. I'm so glad this happened in stream today! A little bit on accident, but I'm so glad it happened.
Yeah, it
Somebody
did happen
looked
on
at
accident.
a transmat pad?
Yep! Somebody looked at a transmat pad. A little bit on the accident side. They did it. But yeah. So right now, all the transmat pads, if you try to use them, they zap you for, I think it's 52d6 damage.
And Trillium survived.
And Trillium survived. It's, oh my god. Yeah, 52d6 lightning damage, an average of 182. Oops, wrong one. You could just resurrect afterwards. It's no big deal. I'm really hoping someone makes a red versus blue joke, you lied to me situation. That's a callback that the Zoomers may not get. Other than that, this just kind of harkens back to the classic Destiny trope, because I am constantly trying to catch up to Bungie and their game design, where they have things where you can, like the piston door in Pit of Heresy, you know? Oh, here's the path we're supposed to bonk right into the wall behind you and you die.
Yeah.
They have little moments like that where they like
Now
to just laugh at the players.
A high grav trapdoor in Presage.
Yeah. God, I ran into that like 3 times before I realized it's actually just there to kill you. Like, I was a little bit dense on that one.
You're not the only one. Took me several playthroughs before I realized there was no reason at all to go through there.
But yeah, so you start in the junkyard, you make your way through these encounters. You cannot go backwards. You get trapped in here. As far as you go in, the door behind you always shuts or is always inaccessible in some way. And you either you win or you lose or you die. One of those things is going to happen. You will win in that you will defeat the Vex Network node, and you will overcome Qodron, and there will be no more resets, no more retries, because no one will need that anymore. You will lose in that you will get shunted back to the junkyard, everything will get reset, and you have to try again. Or you will die, in that you will permanently be killed.
Yikes.
Yeah. One of those three things is going to happen. So we started streaming this today. Oh boy, Laur. I'm actually going to shoot this over to you to kick us off with the streaming thing. Because I was GMing it. You were in the audience, though. What was it like from your perspective? What was going on?
Was there a specific part?
Yeah, the first hour, the second hour, and the third hour, and about 40 minutes of the last hour.
I think the most exciting thing that happened in the first hour was probably somebody put a rampant Minotaur on the tracks of the Prison of Elders. And not only put them on the tracks, their fellow guardian grappled it. Your fellow guardian looked at them and they said, I know what I must do. And then shoved both of them onto the tracks. And then the train plastered both of them on the wall. Or whatever it is that Prison of Elder trains plaster you on, because they hit you and you immediately die. Because they're... And they just resurrected afterwards because they're a guardian. But that's one way to get rid of a Minotaur, which was really funny.
Okay,
I would say, like...
Alright, hang on.
Okay.
I'm just going to talk a little bit about
the first encounter?
I mean like 2 sentences about the first encounter, because the first encounter is really basic, and it's designed to be basic.
It's very basic.
You show up, you fight some things, and if you do well enough, you get quote-unquote invited, because, Qodron wants people who think they're good enough to come to try to kill it, because it's trying to find that one guardian, that hotshot little mother bucket, so that it can kill that guardian instead of the other way around. And so first fight's actually supposed to be really basic. From my perspective, this kind of went on a little bit too long for me, but I think that was mostly my fault. I was taking too long with turns. I got a lot better with keeping turns moving as we went along, but nothing too bad here.
I would say so.
And then we got to our second fight, which so that was Junkyard, and then they went into the outer tracks. And the outer tracks it's kind of grayed out here, because, I haven't hit play yet. But this is another map that had to kind of cobble together with assets that I had. We got the 3 tracks, which, by the way, these assets, these aren't like rail tracks or anything like this. These are cinder block assets next to neon sign assets. That I stacked them on top of each other, and I was like, that's close enough.
If you can fool them visually, that's all that matters.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is also supposed to be a really straightforward fight, except it has this cool thing where you got the 3 tracks, and randomly prison train cars will come flying down the tracks, and if you're in that area, you get absolutely plastered. You can avoid getting plastered by standing on the brown or gray bits on the side, or by standing in the very, very center columns here, where you can see these really black boxes. Those are like support beams that go up to the ceilings and stuff. You can't pass through them. But if you stand on the same line as those, you won't get plastered. And I actually... Oh my god, I forgot to make the asset that was the glowing white light to indicate which tracks we're going to get the train cars coming down. Because they're actually supposed to have... Some of them are even... You can even have multiples, or all 3 can come at once. So, it gets absolutely ridiculous. And then...
I think it was good that... And maybe you didn't actually plan this. Even if you did plan it or not, it was good. It was a good move. You had like a couple of those little baby rampant goblins get plastered by a train.
Yeah.
And that was pretty good, because it basically just, showed to the players, like, this is what's going to happen. You're going to get plastered by the train. You or the goblins are going to get plastered by the train. It doesn't matter.
And so, the players saw that happen.
She moved to the other side of it.
They took it to the next level, which was great.
I took it to the next level, so hang on. I want to start from when Trillium grapples it. I think this is about
Grapple
it.
the rampant Minotaur.
Oh my god.
You said the light was coming down the middle tunnel, right?
Yeah, the light's coming down the middle tunnel.
Oh, sorry. Oh, wait. I can't hear it because it's on here.
Do it. Do it, I dare you. So, oh my god, it failed. You grappled it.
Cool. That was 15, 20, so I have 10 feet of movement left, so I'm going to spend that 10 feet of movement. Taking the Minotaur 5 feet this way. And you? It's up to you
It's just
now.
a gamer moment. All around.
So what had happened here? I realize you guys probably can't hear it that well because you're watching me stream this. If you wanted to pull it up on the Twitch itself, the timestamp is 1:40, I think is about when it starts. But right now I'm at 1:43:28. Oh wait, no, that's minutes. That'd be one...
It's 1:43:28. Yeah, it's 1 hour, 42 minutes, and whatever.
So, Eidolon, playing the character Trillium, who is a 18th level warlock that dresses like a titan for funsies. Trillium has been on the server for a very long time. I just sort of confirmed, like, hey, the light's coming down the middle track, right? Okay, cool. I'm gonna grapple the rampant Minotaur and I'm gonna drag it towards it. Trillium didn't have any movement left for her turn, though, so turned to Enyo and said, Enyo, it's up to you now. Enyo, if you manage to use either drag it or push it into the way of the train, I'll give the whole fire team inspiration.
Just shoves it on.
Yeah, I can do this. She moves to the other side of it.
I know what I must do.
Tries to shove it.
God. Make your. Oh my god! It can't even. It literally cannot beat that. Trillium, you're gonna get shoved too. So. Do it! I dare you.
All right.
Do it again. You have extra attack.
Well, Trillium did ask me to do it.
Here we go. Oh, it rolled an 8.
All right. Let's go.
Let's go. Is that your turn?
Yeah.
So you shove this Minotaur over.
And Trillium.
You know what I should have put on?
That's accurate.
It was like Trillium's like is yanking this 8-foot tall Minotaur, a little itty bitty warlock with stick legs. I actually don't know how big Trillium is. I just imagine like most warlocks, you have the figure of a toothpick.
Trillium dresses like a titan.
Dresses like a titan. Alright, so a moderately sized warlock just dragging this 8-foot rampant Minotaur that's just going with Minotaur noises. And Trillium's like, it's up to you, Enyo! And Enyo is just, I know what I must do. Circles around, shoves this rampant Minotaur 10 feet forward. And Trillium gives the thumbs up as the train comes whooshing by, destroys Trillium, destroys the Minotaur, destroys the barricade. It's just utter decimation here. And so, yeah, the players...
Utter decimation.
Yeah, utter decimation. The players saw, oh, things get splattered, we're gonna push things in the way. And that was honestly fantastic. That was one of the highlights of the night for me.
Bonus points for creative use of environmental hazard.
Yeah.
Just can't wait until someone tries to like, alright, we're gonna kill everything, literally everything, by shoving it in the way of the oncoming trains.
It's the Trillium maneuver.
But, so that was our second encounter, which, other than the trains coming by, it was really simple. They had the opportunity to take the transmit pad at this point. This is not the point when they took the transmit pad, though.
No, I didn't think they, weren't they trying to do intelligence technology checks to try and make it work? And then it just, even with an electronics toolkit, even with somebody with, a +5 in intelligence, they still rolled, nothing higher than, 10.
So here's the thing. Enyo is the engineer striker, which they have the tectonic fist, and they get the proficiency in the electronics toolkit and everything. And as you can see here, one of the locks to get into the Undertracks, or the lock to get into the Undertracks, is that you have to repair, literally a lock. There's this blast door that has been sealed down, and you have to repair it to be able to open it up to take that path to get into the Undertracks. The engineer failed to repair it, and so the engineer, who is a striker titan, keep that in mind. I had described that with their initial investigations of the lock that they realized it just needed power. Engineer just kind of like wanted to punch it with a storm fist. Like, is that gonna work? Can I just punch it with my storm fist? And I was actually kind of tempted to allow that to work, and maybe in future runs I might allow that. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't want to have to handle the inner tracks today. So I told them no. That's my confession of this vodcast. The inner tracks is it's not hard. It's just very consuming to run. It's got a couple fun things with it. And I do mean they are fun things, but also I was so nervous and just so apprehensive. I wanted to stick to the basic route for this very first run that we were doing. I wanted to keep it simple for myself so I could focus on doing the best job I could at GMing. So they went into cell block L after, which this was insanely fun. And so you come in here. Oh, by the way, there was an art issue that happened with this. Mardin, you are the cause of an art issue and almost a mental breakdown.
I fail to see how that's possible.
So I had actually made this arena. It did not look like this. And then I was reading over the description of the arena to try to make sure that, just double checking that what I made was close enough to the description that we could get away with it, because not everything matches 1-to-1. I, did my best, but there's only so much I could do not being an artist myself. But I made it, and I realized that Mardin used the word encircled.
Oh, this is what that was about?
That's how I had to go to Mardin's DMs. I had to go, talk to Mardin in the production server and be like, Mardin, when you say encircled, do you mean like...
Listen, encircled means circling around. It's just the word. This is a great looking map. Like, this is what these decks look like. If you think back to those cutscenes from the opening mission of Forsaken, where Petra's looking over the edge as Cade, jumps down on the flaming wreckage. Yeah.
So,
this is what the space is like.
So yeah, I'm not saying that's not what the space looks like, but what I had originally imagined in my head when I read your descriptions, because I guess I skipped over the word encircled, was that the center area was filled in, and the pods were around that, and you had to fend off from the center, kind of like a tower defense sort of situation. But then I realized, oh, it's encircled. Oh, the center's supposed to be empty, isn't it? Oh, I have to completely redo the map, don't I? So I had to completely redo the map.
Well, it looks great.
Well, thank you.
It looks great. It looks exactly like the prison. It was also kind of terrifying and made me have some, vertigo.
Oh,
because I was like, oh boy, they're just going to fall to their deaths if they just mildly step off the side.
That's the shortcut down to the Vex network node that you don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
But
okay, maybe they won't fall to their deaths. It'll be a different time.
But a mechanic that I ended up coming up with that was specific to the map that I ended up making was that there are these doors, and what players have to do is you have to spend an action to open a door. But for every round on initiative count 20, losing all ties, Qodron will send its regards by adding reinforcements, which is just kind of a remix of, Fireteam Must Survive Waves. And Qodron, they just kind of got piled up in the last room here. I was originally going to disperse the waves a little bit more around the end, but then I thought it'd be funny because I realized, we have a striker in here. It'd be hilarious if I put them all in one room and the striker got to go and just decimate them.
Spoiler alert, it wasn't the striker who did it.
Yeah, spoiler alert, it wasn't the striker. It wasn't even the one who wanted to do it.
No.
So yeah. And however long it took for them to get to the terminal was how many waves were going to spawn. So if you get there faster, if you basically set up a relay race and you spend your time dashing and stuff like that and opening up doors, you can actually get through this really quickly. And you can get to the terminal and shut it down really fast. And you don't have to deal with so many waves, and then after that you just clean up whatever's left. But if you take too long, or if you linger too long in doorways and stuff, more and more stuff is going to be spawning on top of you. So if you're gonna be slow about it, you better be a good shot, because you're gonna get overwhelmed with enemies really fast. And that aspect of the mechanics I kind of want to write into the description of the arena itself in our document here. We ended up in this situation where there was a lot of stuff in here, a lot of stuff all piled up, and then Pieman, who was playing the character Eddie, who is a Sunbreaker, was like, mine, dibs, please let me, because Enyo, the striker, had actually already spent her action before this area was revealed, so she couldn't actually use her Tectonic Fist. Pieman has been waiting for a moment where his Siegebreaker Titan, who is designed to take on hordes, could actually take on hordes. This was a proper horde to fight. And then Trillium Nova bombs them.
And Nova bombed every single one of them out of existence.
When Eddie's been waiting for this for ages.
Trillium has a CR4 or higher.
Oh,
or
without
lower,
destroying my
I'm sorry,
grenade.
for destroy creature. And guess what all those creatures are?
I can't sculpt light round grenades.
Lower than CR4.
Yeah, I'm just gonna move that then.
Typical warlock.
save your grenade.
Yeah. And then poor Pieman,
It's
Eddie's
damage.
character just fell to his knees and was just crying.
He was literally
prone
yeah,
on his knees.
and
Very upset.
it was actually amazing. Yeah, Eddie's face falls as the nuke destroys the massive enemies. His super drops and he falls to his knees. Just ends concentration on a super, and then at another point where's the point where I had pointed out that he had actually, I had zoomed in on the fact that he actually, because what you can do on Roll20 is you can put little icons that represent different conditions and stuff, and he had put the prone icon, and later he changed it to a depressed looking face. Literally just absolutely hamming it up. But they had a really fun time going through that encounter. I feel like I had a lot of fun running it. I always like running encounters where the difficulty isn't really the damage, where you have something else that you're trying to do, another objective you're trying to reach. And so I'm looking forward to running that one again. I might refine the spawn table a little bit. And for our last encounter in the stream today, they made it to the networked servitor, which was Syntax 5, and I'm going to have to update that before we do the next stream of this. So the concept for the monster came from Mardin. Wanted a network servitor that would shoot out detainment fields. I don't think I quite nailed the detainment mechanics, because, fun fact, detainment and what it does is actually really hard to translate to 5e. One of the closest things they have is hold person or force cage, I think is the name of the spell. And it's 3 paragraphs long to describe the different conditions and the clauses and if, ands, or buts about it. And detainment itself is an insanely long condition. It does a lot. It's so long I can't actually fit it into one thing here. Because you have to describe all the different mechanics of how the shell works and stuff like that, because a lot of 5e and how it works is based on line of sight. And if you can see something, you can do something to it. There's not really a whole lot that covers windows, because 5e is typically set during a time period where you're not going to have large panels of glass, because, it's medieval fantasy. Most of your glass is going to be stained glass and or just straight up open windows of a house. So Syntax 5, and it's got the condition in here, and then it's got the detainment. Part of the testing process is that there's, a lot of different ways things can be done. I think what I'm going to do is for next time, because right now, this time I actually had no limit on the number of times it could detain. And its detainment was listed as a legendary action as opposed to its main action, which doesn't change a whole lot about how the creature works. For those who don't know, When it's your turn, you can take an action, and if you meet the conditions of it, you can take a bonus action, and the conditions will be defined by the bonus action itself. It'll be something like, if there's a hostile creature within 5 feet of you, you can move 5 feet away. And if you meet that condition, you can take that bonus action. Otherwise, you get one action, and then monsters get special things called legendary actions, which is you get an amount. 3 is the standard. You choose your action, and each action has a cost to it. You can only use one legendary action at a time, and only at the end of another creature's turn, and you regain your spent legendary actions at the start of your turn. And what actions you decide to put in your legendary action block, and which ones you put into your action block, both matters and doesn't matter. It's really going to come down to what the action itself is, whether or not it's going to matter. And I think what I want to do for detainment, because I put it in here because I kind of wanted it to spam detainment a little bit, because I thought players might figure it out and figure out that, an AC at 11, 28 hit points, they can, smack it pretty easily. And the encounter I gave them for the very first fight here, the encounter that I gave them here was actually specifically, I picked this one out instead of rolling for it, but it had the hoplites, which are just really fun, and I love running hoplites. But it also had Scorpius turrets, and how Scorpius turrets worked is that they pick a target and they don't stop shooting that target. And so I wanted to detain a target that was picked by a Scorpius turret so I could show the players that you can damage the detainment fields and pop them, in case they hadn't figured it out themselves. I would have an NPC as kind of a backup. Yeah, I'm a little bit proud of myself on that one.
That's good game design.
And I did end up getting to do that. I did end up getting to pop one of the PC's detainment fields, but they had already figured out that they could shoot it. One of the things they didn't figure out is that residual damage went through. So if you have your teammate shoot your detainment field, and they were like, I'm going to apply as much damage as I can to it, congrats! It's only going to soak up 28 of that, and the rest of it's going on to your teammate who's beyond the detainment. So you got to be a little bit careful, and it's a little bit of being clever. But what I'm thinking I'm going to do with Network Servitor is I am going to take detainment, I'm going to put detainment in its main action block, I'm going to take all the eye blasts, every single eye blast that it can do, which is its main attack, I'm going to put all of that as legendary actions. So this will end up just costing one action, Servitor's Eye. And detainment's going to be on a recharge roll. It'll be guaranteed to do at least one, and if it gets lucky, it'll be able to do multiple detainments in a fight. But statistically speaking, it'll only get one detainment in a fight, because a fight is only going to last between 4 to 5 rounds. Okay, that was a lot.
It was a lot, but it was cool.
Yeah, it felt really cool. It felt super cool to finally be able to show off what, Mardin and I have been working on and working very hard on and trying to put together, and there's so much other stuff that we didn't talk about, and I'm looking forward to getting to talk about more as we record more of these episodes and talk more about the stream and stuff and what players are doing. We got the entire side quest with the caged wolves, the transfinite needle. Okay, so here's the fun thing about the transfinite needle. I'm going to go into this real quick, real fast. This is really fun.
Real quick.
So
you got this.
Sorry, hang on. This is gonna be so good. You have no idea, Laur.
Oh my god, please.
So one of the steps to getting the transfinite needle is you need to go to the infinite forest and you need to you need to go to a simulation of an Overmind Minotaur, and you need to download a simulation of an Overmind Minotaur, right? And to get to that simulation, you need a specific simulation seed, which
God.
I have been tracking that exact seed's location. The players are now going to have to find it, because it just existed in the Mercury loot pool. So whenever, because right now we have downtime activities and stuff, and we have players who are doing like patrols and everything on other planets, and one of the downtime activities they can do is to patrol Mercury, and one of the rewards for that is potentially finding simulation seeds, which can be used to craft exotic equipment, or you can sell them for money and stuff like that.
Kidding.
Yeah.
Someone put it into a gun? Someone put it into a gun.
So here's the thing. I've been tracking the pool, so every time someone has recovered simulation seeds, I've been rolling d6s. And if I get the right combination, then it's however many seeds they find and so on, and it's a whole bunch of stuff, don't worry about it. The TLDR is that one character, Naruk, who I believe is one of Xerx's characters even, currently has the seed that is needed. And
boy,
I'm keeping track of this, this seed's location. If the seed does get crafted into an exotic weapon, you're gonna need that exotic weapon to make the transfinite needle. Because you
God.
need it's gonna be so good.
Okay, but what weapon would they make with the simulation seed? Do they already have an idea of like a weapon in mind?
I have no idea.
Okay, they just have the simulation seed. Got it.
Yeah,
That's.
they currently
Did he go to Mercury and pick it up, or did somebody give it to him?
It was a patrol on Mercury. Yeah.
One of whose characters? It's not Eidolon's, is it?
It's Naruk, who I believe is one of Xerx's characters.
Xerx is okay. I was like, it was a red name. One of my mods has it.
And this is, so when fire teams get to this step, it's like, oh, wander until you find the simulation seed. I'm gonna warn them about how the simulation seed might have already been picked up by other people. So you actually have no idea where that simulation seed is. And I just can imagine them of like going up to Forge Requisitions and being like, I need to buy all your simulation seeds right now.
Oh my.
Taking them to Brother Vance like, is it this one? Is it this one? Is it this one?
Literally a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory situation with the golden ticket.
Yeah.
I hope you understand this. Like, everybody's buying up all these freaking chocolate bars to see if it's got the golden ticket in it, and the ticket already exists. Somebody already has it, and nobody knows. This is gonna be interesting. But hey, now we know. Oh god! At least it's one of Xerx's characters, which Xerx is already in this, so. Maybe Xerx will be like, wait a minute, one of my characters has a simulation seed. Let's check it out.
I hope it gets turned into a gun.
It would be so funny. That would be so funny.
And then they have to convince that guardian, like, hey, I need your gun so that I can make a spear.
Hey, listen, I know that you just made this gun, and it took you a long time, and it was really worth it, but you used a simulation seed I need, and I promise you it's something that's really important. Oh my god.
I can't believe you've done this.
Yeah. Can't believe you've done this. I can't believe you made it into something that was an actual, like, material that can be made into a gun.
Yeah, why wouldn't I?
I don't know, it's just funny.
Oh.
It's like, yes, this irreplaceable key that you can put into the chassis of a car because you melted it down and now you turned it into a car and now the car is the key.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
God, what was I talking about before this? I started laughing so much I forgot.
We were finishing up.
Yeah.
You got sidetracked by the transfinite needle.
So yeah,
I mean, let's just roll dice now to see who has the best bet on if it's gonna become a gun or not.
I'm doing my best to try to convince people to turn to A, find simulation seeds, or just patrol Mercury in general. B, make guns. But yeah, so there's a lot, and then like some of the mechanics for some of these encounters. Oh my god, Shaft 32 is gonna be so much fun! But we'll get to those in future episodes, and we'll talk about them more in depth. And this, what we've got here, like I mentioned way long ago, is that we have just started testing this, so things are going to be changing, and we're going to be fine-tuning things as we go along. And just looking forward to running this, and then getting, this video out there and sharing these experiences with other people. And I hope this helps others with designing their own content and figuring out their own mechanics and stuff. Learn from our mistakes. And also, if you end up running it yourself, I hope you have a lot of fun.
I'm just glad it works.
Yeah. God, after all the work we put into it, if it did. Mardin, you know what we forgot?
Nothing. It's perfect and complete, and there's no need to add anything.
We forgot something, Mardin.
What did we forget?
We forgot to add a block of talking to Varix when you respond to the invitation.
I mean, I just assumed that was not part of the...
No, that is!
I just thought, you respond to the invitation and you show up, like...
I know, but turns out people want to actually talk to Varix and get more information. I know! So...
Listen, Varix is a very busy Elixni man, and just can't be bothered to talk to every single fire team who wants to show up and shoot stuff. Like, they're welcome, but things to do, buttons to press, chunks of amethyst to carve,
chattering
while in deep emotional reverie.
Jesus. All right. With that, we're gonna bid everyone adieu. Thank you for sticking it out with us here, and make good choices out there, and try not to get yourself dead.